Welcome back to TnT Extracted, the high risk, high reward gaming podcast. I am your host, the Lucky Tuna.
And I'm your co-host, Tactical Dennis.
Tact, it is great to be back for another episode of TnT Extracted. We're going into a little bit of our second week of our extraction shooter test. Last week we did Dark and Darker. This week we did Escape from Tarkov, which is pretty popular now. So yeah, that'd be cool to go over and kind of give our experiences on that. And then we'll go over the next game that we're playing the week after next, because unfortunately we're gonna take a week hiatus. Work gets in the way sometimes, but we'll keep pushing through, and you guys can see us the week after next. Tact. Escape from Tarkov.
It was such a fun time.
It was a really fun time.
I enjoyed it much better than Dark and Darker.
We got through more than just an hour, so it was a pretty solid time. It was a pretty solid time. Tact, got some kills. I don't know if we got a whole lot of objectives done, but we had a really fun time.
Yeah, as ABI is coming to the end of season, it's harder to find things to do in the game just because we've kind of done everything. So even though you're going from one extraction shooter to the next, it's just kind of fun to play something that's like has a different little different mechanics about the game and the way it runs. And it was just, fun. And the VoIP. I mean, VoIP is so fun to use.
Yeah, we had a couple of pretty good VoIP moments in the game. Even though we only played for a couple hours, I think we got a good enough feel for how we feel about the game in its current state versus how our experience was in the past. Because both of us had some experience in the game before. Mine was like 50 to 60 hours. Like I said, nothing, kind of worth mentioning in the terms of Tarkov, but Tact. He had a lot more hours than I expected. Tact, how many hours did you say you had in the game?
I had about 2,700, I think.
A Chad, a regular old Chad.
No.
Well, so if you're familiar with our breakdown segment, we have a few categories that we go over. The first being tension and atmosphere. Like I said, if you watched the last video, you saw our Dark and Darker breakdown. You know that we have these set categories, and they all have a percentage tied to them. We score them 1 out of 10 based on our personal experience and how we feel about it. And then it gets a weighted score to then be ranked among the other extraction games we've played. So far, we've only did Dark and Darker. We got Hunt Showdown, Arc Raiders, Delta Force Extraction, and things like that. So, tension and atmosphere. Tact. On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate tension and atmosphere of Escape from Tarkov?
Oh, I'm putting that as a 10. 100%. With everything that goes on in Tarkov, it's quiet, and then it's just chaos.
Yeah, tension for me, I would have to agree, was going to be at a 10. It us having a little bit of experience with Tarkov, I think we kind of are maybe a little biased on this. But it's rough out the gate. I started with the tutorial, like I hadn't even done the tutorial for season for 1.0 yet. And even it was tension full. The thing about like Tarkov versus like ABI, especially, or any other games that we've played, is that you can't, it's hard to see the people. People could be anywhere you're walking. I mean, Tack got the experience watching me or running down the street and I just get folded in front of him. Everything's scary all the time. And I think a lot of that comes with also not knowing where you are on the map. It takes quite a few hours in the game to kind of get really comfortable with the map. Even though we were playing Ground Zero, which I feel like I had the most familiarity with just from my little experience playing in the past. So yeah, tension and atmosphere, a 10 across the board. Very tension based game. And it was kind of spooky.
Going to combat and gunplay. Well, one other thing I wanted to touch on too, really quick before we go on to that, is I had to change my FOV down because arena I've been playing on max lately. like you just like you said, you can't. It's really hard to see people, and like I don't know how to. It's like because of how the graphics are, I feel like it makes it that much harder. I don't know if it's the engine that it's on, but yeah, I definitely agree with what you said on that for sure.
Yeah, and I think I even made a comment while we were playing. I was like, it maybe the game just feels more pixelated, or it's that more uh, like smeary look to it. I don't know the technical term for it, but people blend in a lot more in this game, and you can kind of tell that they want it to be that way. They don't want it to be like ABI, where you can kind of see somebody even from a good distance because they're like not a part of the background. In this game, if they're not moving, you're probably not going to see them unless you just have really incredible eyesight or a lot of experience in the game, which I personally don't have. So it was very difficult. I could see shots coming at me from a direction, and I couldn't see them. No clue where they were, and it definitely made it a little bit more suspenseful because you're firing, and I'm like, I don't know where that guy is.
I agree with you, man. I agree. For combat and gunplay, I would rate this probably a 9 because I feel like it's missing that 10 because of kind of like how the the mechanics are with the movement kind of takes it down a score. But I mean, overall, you're not going to be disappointed with the gunfights.
Yeah,
What
I'm
do
gonna
you
rate
think,
it
Dana?
7.5. A little more critical. So coming from like an Arena Breakout Infinite background and just other shooting games, you're not going to immediately feel like you know how to win the gunfights, in my experience. Everything moves a little more sluggish. The guns just feel like they don't shoot where you're pointing at them sometimes, and that may be part of the realism that Tarkov is offering. But it takes a little bit getting used to. I think even by the time we finished our little session of playing, I still wasn't 100% used to the guns. To whereas like ABI, if you have some first person shooter experience, whether it be like Battlefield or God forbid Call of Duty, I feel like you can get into the gunplay a lot easier now. It's not like 100% the same, but I feel like it's definitely an easier transition coming from any of those games to Tarkov. It feels, like I said, more sluggish. I think the closest game, and I may get flamed for this, uh, in the sense of sluggishness of combat or like kind of how flowy it moves or the inertia that you feel in the game, in my experience would be um like aiming and shooting in what's that game called, the finals. I don't know if you ever played the finals. It felt super
Uh,
like kind of sluggish. Like it's almost like you're like a little bit in water when you're trying to move and shoot. And I'm sure once I play and more and get more familiar with it, it will become more second nature. But especially initially starting off, if you are a new player or somebody coming back, you may experience that feeling that I felt.
yeah, no, I could agree with that. I could see how you can compare that directly to the finals. That was my biggest gripe ever from playing in the beginning stages of Tarkov. Um, it's just I felt I think I said it yet last night. It feels like I'm playing at 60 hertz, going, you can go from a 60 hertz monitor to 144. It's a huge jump. Well, I feel like when I'm on, I know I'm biased to ABI, but even other games, I feel like I'm playing at that higher fresh rate. But when I come to Tarkov, I just feel like it's so slow and sluggish, and I don't feel as confident with my gunfights as I do other games.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Specifically, when you're looking at combat and gunplay, I think that I prefer ABI's combat and gunplay a little better. I don't think that's a popular decision. I get flamed in my YouTube shorts and my TikTok post because people who like Tarkov tend to not like ABI and want to come into my chats and my comments and blame me because they say the game's better in every way. I think objectively though, 7.5 to me is a fair score for the combat gunplay.
I
Um,
agree with you on
yeah. And then going into our third category here, that's going to be loot, loop, and economy. Now, I think the way we're going to judge this is going to be based off of people who are coming in brand new, and then people like us who have a little bit of experience or a lot of experience at tax part uh, with the game because we didn't get to experience a lot of the loot, loop, and economy. I feel like the majority of the time when you're first playing the game is you trying to figure out, one, what are you doing, where are we going, how do you move correctly. So we didn't get a chance to experience the loot economy, but in past experience, um, Tarkov, the loot to me just feels like you got to pick up everything because you don't know what you need. If you've ever had a buddy who played Tarkov sitting in the chat watching you play Tarkov, they're like, "Oh, you picked that up. You'll need that 35 quest from now." That's not something that I'm aware of. And then coming from that experience, I just tend to pick up everything because you'll need it eventually. And I do not understand, especially from like a new player perspective, what's more valuable than something else. In ABI, you have a system for it that's like, hey, this is a general system. If it's this color item, it's probably better than what you have, or you have like a value system. And Tarkov, especially brand new starting out, you're like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. I don't know what any of it does. I don't know what it's worth. And the economy, like I said, I think you have to be like level 20 or something to get to the to be able to buy from like the not the auction house, but the market. So our only experience is with the traders. Money seems to be a lot harder to come by in this game than like an ABI or even Dark and Darker, for example. And it just feels like you kind of have to scrounge around a little bit. You can't go full kit all the time. You have to be more tactical and more what's the word I'm trying to think of? Miserly with your gear when you're going in, because you can bring in something good and get one tap from across the map. And stuff's expensive, and especially starting out, you just do not have the gear to be doing that. Tact, what are your thoughts on the loot looping economy? Oh, I didn't even give it a score. I didn't even give it a score.
Oh yeah, give it a score.
6.
All right, so I'm gonna give it a 7. I agree a lot with what Tuna said about you really don't know what to grab, and typically there's no price next to things. There's no. It's just you see the item and you're like, well, it's a 50-50. I need it or I don't. Now I know with Tarkov with the hideout, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of building, and there's tons of things that you need, light bulbs and wires, and to craft your GPU farm. So yeah, there's a lot more, and I do think that in that aspect, Tarkov does better than ABI in terms of progressing. Um, but at the same time, if you're spending with the amount of tasks that you have to do, and then by the time you get all your tasks done and you're having to do the same task, that's where they're kind of being pulled back a little bit with that, because it's like you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again for multiple wipes at a time. So even after you've grinded all those tasks and grabbed all those loot items, you're gonna have to do it again. I don't know. I don't know if they do it like every 6 months, or I can't remember the frequency, but yeah, overall, I'd say a 7. I mean, there's plenty of loot. There's a lot of loot to loot, but
Yeah,
there's some setbacks for that.
talking on the wipes. So I'm unsure if you heard this. So since 1.0 released, my understanding is that there's no more wipes. I'm not. I know you're not versed well in the RPG game mechanics, but there's like in Diablo 3, there's a thing called like seasons. So basically, you have your normal game, your playthrough, your main character, and then every season, that's every couple months, it basically you start from scratch. And then you play through that season as if you're starting scratch, and you try to get as far as you can. Like usually there's a leaderboard or there's some quests you got to get, and I'm sure they'll start releasing new stuff that you're gonna get from those seasons. And then when the game is over or the season's over, the stuff in Diablo comes back to your main character. I talking to somebody and looking into it a little bit. So my understanding is that's kind of like the system they're going to do in Tarkov going forward, to where you have your main game that you play, but you also have your quote unquote seasons. I don't think they're going to call them that either, but I'm just using that from like a familiarity term from Diablo. Um, to where then you start over the game. Usually there's probably gonna be like specific challenges. It's kind of all guesses at this point because they haven't released a whole lot of information on it. And then once the season's over, you go back to your main character. So it's not necessarily a hard wipe anymore, more as like that seasonal semi wipe that you can go back to your main character and play. So you're not actually going to lose anything on your like main playthrough. So I think that is a cool thing they're doing. It's definitely something we haven't seen in extraction shooter yet, to my knowledge. And it may work out for them, but as we know, Tarkov makes some changes sometimes that some people like, some people don't. So we'll kind of see how the community takes it.
Very interesting. I didn't know about that one. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how they change that versus the past, because or my earlier days playing Tarkov.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hopefully no more wipes. You know, they could come back and change it again. I think that's something they're kind of known for, is staying something then going a different way, or implementing something then reverting back when the community doesn't like it. So we will see. We will see. All right.
So,
Go ahead.
so map design and extraction flow. I'm gonna give this a I don't I don't know. I think I'm gonna give this a 4. And the reason, hear me out. I like a lot of the maps, right? But thinking in the mindset of a new player, you are gonna have a hell of a time trying to navigate these maps if you don't know where, because my excuse me, my first reaction yesterday when getting in was pressing the freaking M button for my map like an arena. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know where to go. And based off memory, I haven't played something like Ground Zero. I didn't play that much. Ground Zero used to not be a thing at all. But if you don't know initially, I mean, you can pull up the Wikipedia and there. I will say this: the Tarkov Wikipedia is so much better than the Arena Wikipedia. But looking it up though, it was it's been so long. I had to follow tune around. I just didn't know. So yeah, new players definitely a challenge for that. It take you a while to learn the maps, learn the exfils, and from there. Tuna, what do you think?
So I'm actually going to break this up into two different parts. So 5 points towards map design and 5 points towards extraction flow. Map design, I really enjoy the maps in Tarkov because they're more real. There's a lot more verticality in the maps. There's a lot more levels to it. I've said this before, maybe not on the podcast, but Arena Breakout or like Dark and Darker, their maps feel very flat. There's not a lot of verticality. There's not a lot of obstacles. There's not like a building with a bunch of rooms. It just feels like they're more open and meant for like, you know, very quick engagements where you have a lot of open opportunities to get people. But the maps in Tarkov are built, kind of like real places. Like take streets for example. How many floors does street have? Like 11, 12, 26? I don't know. And
Yeah,
most of those rooms you can go in. Getting into an encounter like that, I think really lends like gives a lot of good things why like VoIP does really well in maps like that, because the engagements can take longer. You can know somebody's there and not be able to get a clear shot on them without giving your position up, and you can have those conversations. Where games like ABI or even Dark and Darker, there's not a lot of obstacles in the way, so you're kind of a lot of the times only like one choke point, right? Or if you're like wrapping around or something like that. So it really is a cool way to play where you have a lot of obstacles, a lot of terrain difficulties, a lot of just diversity in the map. So
yeah.
I'm gonna give it 5 for that, and then on extraction flow, I'm gonna give it a 1. Um, Again, a lot of the things like Tack said. Um, if you are new to the game, or even if you've been playing a while, you just don't know where those extracts are, and the game doesn't teach you where they are. You can get a map in the game, but they're dog shit. They're not very good. And I feel like to have to pull up a Wikipedia page, at least to learn the maps initially, even if you don't end up using them after you play for a little bit, it just feels like it should be something that's taught in the game. Because it's one thing for it to be realistic, but I feel like, you know, if you were a trained PMC out in the field, and you have a list of places you know where to go, you'd probably know where they are, right? So I think a one is that. So a total of 6 on map design and extraction flow. Because I just don't think the extraction flow is very good, especially from a new player perspective.
Okay, okay. Yeah, no, I like how you did the two part. That's very nice, very nice.
Well, I want to do
Um,
that because if I give it a 6, then like, oh, he doesn't like the maps. I like the maps. I think the
oh
maps
yeah.
are cool. I think the
Hmm.
extraction flow is garbage.
Yeah, well agreed on that one. Um, so moving on to our next one for replayability and variety. Hmm. c- I think for that one, I'm gonna give it an 8 because I really think that as much as Tarkov for me personally is one of the most frustrating extraction shooters I've ever played, but it does offer a lot of variety in what you have to do. And going back to the tasks, even though I said, yeah, it gets kind of stale playing doing the same task over and over again, but also the task gives you something progression to work towards bettering your skills, your hideout and things like that. So I think an 8 is a solid for this. Knocking off a couple points for the reoccurring of the same tasks. Tina, what's your
Well, replayability and variety, I'm actually gonna give it a 9. And it's kind of like if you watch the Dark and Darker review, uh, it's like the opposite of the reason why I gave the map design and extraction flow a lowish score. Um, the maps are huge, and there's more maps. So you can run a map 10 times and not know the map. If you run a map at ABI 10 times and you have good raids, you know those maps. So it's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to kind of figure out while you're in the map. So it gives a lot of replayability because I know people who've played for, hundreds of hours, maybe even thousands of hours, that are really good in a couple maps. But you take them to a map, one of the maps they may not like or may not be as familiar with, and they're like, I think this is where we go. I can't remember. Like, it's just, there's so much different variety of experiences to have in the game based off the map. So I'm going to give it a 9.
okay? Okay, I mean that's solid. That's a good one. 8 and a 9 for that one.
Yeah, replayability
Um,
is there for Tarkov.
yes, yes, it is. Now the accessibility and learning curve. Hmm. I'm gonna probably for learning curve for new. I'm probably going to give this a 3 because in the beginning it is gonna be rough. There's a lot to learn. There is a lot of resources. Don't get me wrong. And for me personally, when I'm trying to learn a new game, I'm probably, I want to give a shout out to Landmark because when I was first starting to play Tarkov, I watched Landmark and he taught me a lot about the game. I'll watch YouTube videos, Twitch. I'll watch him on Twitch to kind of get a gist. But a lot of the stuff still, even though I watched him, I kind of had to figure out. And I'd look at the Wikipedia. But when you're in the game, it definitely can give some challenges for that. I'm curious what your rating's going to be on this one.
A 1. Uh Accessibility learning curve, it's extremely difficult. The game does not hold your hand. If anything, the game removes your hands. You have no hands when you play this game. There is very little instruction in the game. Pre 1.0, there wasn't even this tutorial quest that you have, this tutorial mission. But even that mission doesn't tell you what to do. I mean, it does to an extent, like, oh, grab these, like, press this button to grab this. But it's still like, if you get into a regular game, that didn't help you a whole lot. You don't know what to do. And I feel like if you don't have like a Sherpa or a friend or watch some videos, the game is going to, I don't know, maybe not even be fun for you. I remember the first time I played Tarkov, I was like, dude, I do not understand why people like this game at all. It is so hard, and it's like unreasonably hard. Like I said, if you're a trained PMC and you are like a combat man, you know certain things. If I get into like my third ever gunfight in the game And the game doesn't show you this, by the way, in your gun jams, because you don't know anything. You don't know about durability and gun jamming in the game, because that's not something that happens in like ABI or Battlefield or whatever. Um, do you know how to unjam your gun? No, you have to press escape. You don't even know, like you don't even know usually what's happening. You're just like, oh, my gun's broken. I don't know what to do. Maybe I can't use it anymore. And you, without like someone telling you, um, that's what it is. You wouldn't know. And I feel like if you're a trained PMC, shoot guns, you know how to unjam your gun. If it just popped up on the screen, press Alt B to unjam your gun. You could at least get the feeling like, oh, that's probably my problem. My gun's jam. I didn't know that happened, but the game's saying, hey, I can unjam it by doing this. So,
That actually happened to me yesterday. I
and
pistol jammed. I didn't figure it out because, even though I have the hours in, they implemented those changes. I think it was maybe a wipe, and then it was like one wipe I played with it, and I just, it was just like the testing of it. But yeah, I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on. This pistol's not shooting. This scab's about to kill me.
and he was streaming while I was doing it. We were actually playing last night, and he's like, "This pistol's out of ammo." I remember saying that on the stream.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was out of ammo. I'm like, bro, I had to run past the scabs, anxious and all, and go to the freaking exfil, dude. It was crazy. Um, and one thing I will say, when I first started playing this game, my anxiety was on 1,000, dude. You'd think I was having breathing treatments, dude. I was literally like, I was deep breathing, I was sweating, dude. I was like, dude, this is war, man. And oh my god, it was crazy. So
Yeah, my buddy
back up
always
to
used to tell me. He said Tarkov's a horror game. That's what he always used to say. And he is like
Mhm.
multiple thousand hours in the game. He'd always say Tarkov's a horror game. I would say, oh, you didn't know Tarkov's a horror game. When I jump scare or something, it's just always very spooky, especially playing solo. It's terrifying.
Oh yeah, you go solo on interchange at nighttime. Good
Oh,
freaking luck, dude.
it is. It is not good. Okay,
No.
moving into our final category, we're going to talk about performance and stability. Um, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't think the game runs very good. I don't think the game runs very good. I think it could be a much better game if they would do a lot more optimization. Now, I think it was better this time than it was the last time I played, but definitely, definitely still kind of under optimized. I had a bunch of laggy spikes in the game. Loading into the games takes forever. Even now that it's only taken us like 5 minutes, which I think for like a Tarkov veteran is a pretty quick raid to jump into, because I have sat for like 25 minutes to get into a raid back in the day, so I get that. But the two games that we kind of compare it to right now, because the two games that we've played is ABI and Dark and Darker. ABI, if you're in the thing for 2 minutes, that's a pretty long time to wait for a raid. Dark and Darker, you press the button, you're in there. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it a 4. I don't think it's like unbearable, but there were definitely multiple times where both Tact and I were saying, "Hey, I was teleporting at some point." There was some clipping. We had to fuck with our settings entire lot. Like, I get that in a game you have to mess with your settings, get how you like, but I think base settings in a game should look okay. They should look they should be bearable at best. And I don't think you should ever play this game on base settings, and I don't think it runs very well. Tact, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm gonna give him a 1 because you guys have had long enough to get that together. I mean, maybe I'm being a little harsh, but I mean they, the game just released on Steam. I mean, Tarkov's been out for a very long time, and it probably has to do also with the fact that they're running on, I can't remember the engine name, but they're running on an oddball engine. And if they would have used Unreal, Tarkov would be so much more insane. But yeah, it's just clunky, man. I mean, you guys had all this time to fix it, and it still feels the same as when I started playing. I mean, it's definitely improved, and maybe I'm just really nitpicking, but like me being playing Tarkov as long as I have and seeing how many changes they have gone more about changes not focusing on like the core of the game that people are asking for. yes, it's important to push new content out, new weapons, different maps, but if you can't get the little things done, or like the little things that they're asking for, and then over time it turns into a bigger thing.
Yeah, you already have a game that's incredibly difficult to get into. It's definitely unforgiving to new players. It's unforgiving to watch your favorite streamer. Watch your favorite streamer. Watch anybody who's been playing the game for multiple thousands of hours. It's still unforgiving to them too. The game has a lot of things to learn and it's very difficult. But on top of that, if it doesn't run well, I think that just makes it so frustrating for a lot of people that they can't see the positives of it because they're too focused on the negatives. Because there was a lot. There was a lot of negatives, especially if you're a new player trying to get into the game. If you're already having trouble learning the game and then you die because of like frame rate issues that's not due to your PC or your internet, it's just due to the game, that could be very frustrating. I personally think, like Tax said, they've had a really long time to work on it. It's not like the game is like brand new by any means. And I feel like they may have done a lot of optimization changes since the very first time I played, and then I played multiple times over the years. But it's still not where I think it should be. If a new game comes out in the same market and it just runs incredibly better than yours, I feel like you should probably start taking a look at your stuff. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who complained about this, but yeah. So that completes the scorecard for our extraction day with Escape from Tarkov. That put mine at a 6.7, which puts it at 1.02. You don't have to give exact numbers like I'm doing, but 1.05 over Dark and Darker. So out of the two games we've ranked, which is Dark and Darker and Tarkov, we're leaving ABI off the list because we might be a little biased. We might do it at the end. We might do it at the end. But as of right now, we're doing these new games. It is above Dark and Darker for me.
I agree. Mine was 6.65, so I definitely yeah, so Darker Darker for me is 3.75. So, yeah, definitely Tarkov's definitely up there for the extraction shooters, regardless of any shortcomings. I mean, it's the OG extraction shooter. So,
Yeah, there's a lot. It's been out forever, so there's a lot to do. There's a lot in the game, and if you're looking at a game to sit down and you're like, I want a game that's an extraction shooter, even if it might be a little difficult to get into, that you'll have content to play for a long time. Uh, Tarkov is the way. I think Tarkov is a good option for you. It may not be the way, like I just said, but it's definitely a good option for you because there is a lot of content. The community's gigantic. It's a huge community. Like Tag said, the wiki is very up to date. They have a very engaged community. Some toxic members of the community, but also some really cool, good members of the community. We had some good people interaction in the game. I've had good people interaction in TikTok comments and YouTube Shorts comments as well. Negative ones too, but it is a very vast game, and I think it can give you content to play for a very long time.
I agree with you on that for sure. It's forever growing game. There'll always be new things in it for sure, and it'll always be something that I always go back to for sure.
Absolutely. So just a little recap: some of the strengths that we talked about for Tarkov. We talked about the tension atmosphere, both of us giving it very high scores on that. Combat and gunplay, it seems a little lacking, but there's still enough there, I think, to kind of push through and have a lot of fun with it. And maybe it's a skill issue, as they say. Maybe once I get better at the game and playing with the guns, I won't feel like I did. It's just I'm coming from more of a quicker, zippier, like ADSing and combat and leaning and movement that it just felt a little lacking. Loot Loop and Economy both gave it kind of mid-range scores. Map design and extraction flow, mid-range scores. I specifically said the maps are great. The extraction flow is not good. Replayability and variety, very replayable game. Accessibility learning curve, very hard to learn. Very hard to learn.
Mhm.
It is not going to be something that you're going to get in and be a natural of, I think. Performance and stability, definitely lacking, below average scores for both of us. Just do better, I think, is what all I can say about that. So tact, we went over 3 extractions so far because we did we definitely given our ABI opinions. Um, and just from your like general knowledge and feel of the gaming world as it sits now, especially even from like a creator perspective, because we both are. Um, where do you think Tarkov's places in terms of extraction shooters in general? Not our personal opinions, but how do you feel like it is overall in the extraction world received?
I still think it's up there. I still think games they're still coming out with games that are trying to get to Tarkov just because it has been out and all the coverage that it's gotten over the years. Now people are trying to, put their hand in and try to get in to that. So I think as Tarkov sits right now, I think that it is still one of the top dog extraction shooters. However, I think that um my scope of it personally is they need to listen to their community more. And there are some things that they're doing that are holding them back because of that. And that is why, like, again, I'm biased, but Arena is they listen to their community and they implement changes that people want to see. And that's why they are climbing up. They are going to the top. So that's why I think Arena is right there with Tarkov. I really do. I think um solid contenders, with Delta Force, even though I'm not a big fan of Delta Force, is right there as well. Well, maybe not right there, but it's like maybe a tier or two below because of the maybe lack of popularity. Or maybe that's just me because I don't play it that much. But I still think, Tarkov and Arena are probably one of the top, extraction shooters. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, Tina, on that. What do you think?
I am going to disagree completely with you, but that's okay. We have very, very different opinions, and I think that's what makes the podcast more diverse. I think Tarkov is top dog uncontested. Well, not uncontested, but it's definitely holding a firm grasp. Now, they had lost a lot of their viewership and their player base during some of the late wipes before the 1.0 release, and that's because they made the game shit. You know, every Tarkov veteran, Peanut, Landmark, just to name a few of those guys who make their money off playing the game, weren't playing the game. And I don't think Peanut's made his full return back to Tarkov. I know Landmark has. Um, so there was a sense of dying of Tarkov, but from a creator perspective, even in the worst dead moments of Tarkov, they still had over 20 times the amount of viewers. I mean, that's probably even like under exaggerating. 20 times the amount of average like of viewers for ABI. During ABI's peak, um, so I remember one night I was checking, during like it was a normal like a Thursday night, kind of like an average night. Tarkov had 26,000 viewers and we had 1.9 in ABI. During ABI's peak, which is the beginning of the season, we had maybe 11, 12,000, and they still were hovering around that 26,000. So, I mean, we're definitely catching up beginning of the season, but I think that's where ABI kind of falls short is the content drops off hard towards the end of the season because it gets to the point where it's almost like you're just playing like a match of Battlefield or something because you're just jumping in the mats to jump in the mats. There's no real goals. There's no real objective. There's nothing for you to strive for at the end of the season once you complete all your season quests and done all your events. I just feel like ABI offers a different experience than Tarkov. They have very different experiences. Tarkov's more like an RPG game in like an extraction shooter world. And there's a lot more to do, a lot more to learn. Where ABI feels like it is a match-based PvP game more so than Tarkov is. Not saying that it is only that, but yeah. And then we can't cut out the new contender, which I think is probably giving Tarkov the biggest run for its money right now, and that's Arc Raiders. A vastly different gaming experience, but it's still within that genre, and it is pulling Tarkov fans away from it. One of the biggest reasons probably because a lot of the big streamers, like Peanut, another, he's been playing a ton of Arc Raiders, and I think he's played that. I mean, especially they had that huge, war they had. And even still, he's still been playing Arc Raiders, and you gotta think, a big portion of Tarkov players watch Peanut. They know him, his opinion matters to them a little bit. If they see him not going back to Tarkov, they're probably, I would say like all of them, but probably a decent number of people are like, okay, we'll just go play Arc Raiders instead. So, Delta
Yeah.
Force, surprisingly, is right. It's a little bit lower on the viewership count as Arena, but in this lull, we're not too far apart. And that makes me sad because Delta Force Extraction feels like shit to me personally. We are going to give it another chance. Um, it is everything. It's like, okay, so, we'll get into more into Delta Force when we get to the Delta Force review. I don't want to go on a rant about what I don't like about Delta Force. Extraction mode. Um, but I don't think ABI is there yet. I think what we need is large amount of content very fast, and they're not capable of doing that yet. The great thing about Tarkov, like you said in the earlier, was that they've had a lot of time to add stuff in. Years. ABI is very new on the block, so it may catch up, but it's got a lot of catching up to do.
I agree with some of that what you said for sure. Yeah, I think what was I gonna say? So when I was ranking, when I said ABI is up in with Tarkov, I guess I meant to say like in terms of the top extraction shooters.
Hmm.
But I definitely agree with what you said about how there's still that gap they need to close to get up there with Tarkov, and I'm really hoping in next season that they produce some more content because without doing, since we're not wiping, which I like that they don't do, I prefer that. And leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube and let us know, do you guys prefer having a wipe or do you not like having a wipe? Because there's a lot of controversy over it, and I'm just curious what people will say. But yeah, I think ABI is in the right direction. They've done a lot, and they have a lot more to grow.
Yep, and that's a great point. ABI is still very new, has a lot of opportunity to grow. I think base game when they released it, even season one, was still very fun to play, very good to play. And then we're going into season four here shortly, hopefully. They've added a lot of stuff, and I think they'll just continue to grow. But again, I still hold very strong to my opinion that they offer very different experiences. But speaking about ABI and their growth, we're going to talk about some updates, a quick little segment about some updates that ABI has coming out or has come out since the last time we talked to you guys. I'm going to go first, Tech, if that's okay. I'm going to cover the Winter
Absolutely.
Festival, and then you can go over the cooler of the two things they're releasing, and definitely a unique thing, but we'll get to that. So on November 28th, so by the time this airs, it will be November 28th. So happy event day. They're doing the Winter Festival. So it's going to be the annual Winter Festival. You log in, you can get some rewards, pet vouchers, skin supplies, whatever. Uh, so those are kind of cool, but eh. um, you're gonna have a chance to get on December 5th. It's going to open up the Winter Gold Chest event begins, so you have a chance of finding Winter Festival cards and drawers or coats, and you can deliver them for a gold chest reward. So it's kind of similar to some of the events we see in the past, where you go pick up an item, then you can turn it in your events tab. That's not new or very exciting to me unless they drop a skin or something for it. That would be kind of cool because that's one thing that ABI has Dark doesn't have is skins. Um, and there's going to be an AN94 Winter Festival skin. I don't know who the fuck's using the AN94, but maybe this will this will drag some people into using it. And they have said, and they have a segment that says "and other amazing rewards." That there could be some new stuff. They have been doing really good at dropping skins per season, especially this past season. They dropped a free skin that you could get, so it's pretty cool. Um, they added some restrictions on items that you can bring brought into raids, which has already been put forth. We actually experienced this. You can't put your backpacks in your rigs anymore to go into raid. We experienced that last night we were playing, and it says it right here in the patch notes. We just didn't read it in time. There's some bug fixes. The pumpkins you can lower when you're walking to raid. We don't care about that. more bug fix, bug fix, bug fix, bug fix. An issue with the sound effects. They had an issue with the MK14 marksman rifle with the recoil that they fixed. They didn't give the parameters on that, but hopefully, those of you who are MK14 enjoyers, your recoil issue has been solved, maybe. And that's kind of it from this update post yesterday that they released on November 25th.
All right. And then mine is very very short. So mine they announced it. I saw it on their Twitter. The Twitter post, I'll read exactly what it says. It just says coming next season, a melee only mode will arrive in Northridge. So that's it. Just says no shots fired, only blades drawn deep inside the hotel. Someone waits in silence. That's gonna be exciting. In but okay, so when I say exciting, it's not gonna it's not gonna be like a huge, game mode, but it's just gonna be very interesting. I think it'll add like a little fun dynamic to just going with a knife and now, and maybe this will happen. We'll see. Now let's just hope they take what the community wants, and they usually do, add VoIP in the game and put it in that mode, and I think it might be pretty fun. Now, in I did see on there that Northridge is also going to get some snow on the map. I don't know if that's gonna be a next season thing or that'll be an update. I'm gonna assume it's probably gonna be a next season thing, but just a
Yeah,
couple things looking forward.
entering into the winter time, probably next season. It'll probably drop the next season, or it could be from this winter event that's going to happen, the winter festival. So we'll see. We'll see. I think winter technically doesn't start till like late December, at least where I live. So it'll be interesting to see that on there. I think Tarkov also does that. Though. I think Tarkov also does the seasonal updates. That's it's a cool thing to add. And I think I've said to you in the past before Tech that I like the weather events that they had, and I think those should just be normal things that occur in the game to make it feel more realistic or more dynamic. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. I like the storm event that they did, even though it's not something I'll play for forever. But it's definitely cool just to run a couple games on it, just to see. You can't see shit with the visor and kind of hard to see and just try to kill people.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you jump into a game you don't know the weather's bad. Although I do believe it gives you like a weather warning, even though the weather's always the same. Um, to like jump in there, you're like, holy shit, it's storming. You have to readjust, and I think it's cool dynamic.
I'm just trying to take a ride in a tornado, dude.
Yeah, let's go. Put vehicles in the game. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. I think that would not go very well. Um, Now talking about some of the updates, and the updates to me don't seem that exciting right now. And this is from a person who plays ABI every night. I'm sure I may be a Debbie Downer. We are kind of in an ABI lull, and if you're a regular player and you don't play as often as we do, or you don't care about the quest, you just care about the experience. I don't think you may be experiencing this from a creator perspective, though. At least in my experience, I don't have any goals or objectives doing games. I have to basically come up with like different challenges, or if I have a full group of people to play with, then it gets more exciting. But as a person who plays solo a lot, it just feels like it's harder for me to create engaging content. Um, because I'm not very good, right? So I'm not competing with those streamers who are like, look how great I am at the game. You can learn how to play the game for me. I create from an entertainment perspective, and I just don't feel like I have a lot to work with in the creator pool right now. This is kind of something I felt at the end of season 2, not so much season 1 because I was still relatively new to the game, um, but in season 2 because I completed everything pretty quick, and I just feel like I wish there was more end of season content to do, because it makes it more difficult for me to produce what I think is fun or exciting or funny content in ABI. Unless they were to add VoIP, then that would change things. But that, your experience.
Oh yeah. I'm really hoping for VoIP. I would love it. It would be such a good time. Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I actually created a new account just to see how much money I could rack up. But yeah, it's been kind of lackluster on ABI lately. No matter what, I'll always come back to this game. They've got me for life for sure. But it's just harder to, you know, there's only so many different gun builds you can run. End of season, the loot's kind of scarce. I'm not really. I don't know what it is, but every end of season, I feel like the loot just gets more scarce. I don't know. I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's just a me thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
and if you're new
yeah,
to the game, if you've never played the beginning of the season, loot goes crazy at the beginning of the season. Pulling 5 reds a night in lockdowns is not unheard of. So definitely jump on beginning of the season. But like you said, end of the season, it's just like I'm scrounging over here for some kind of loot for something. And maybe if we played Forbidden, it wouldn't be that bad. But I think this is kind of the general ABI experience. So we are in kind of a lull, I think, in ABI content. Whether you, even if you're a regular player, and especially if you're a content creator, you can only watch the top creators run Armory on Forbidden with their HKs and their full T6 so many times, before it's like, okay, like, can we get something different? Um, so that is kind of where we are on the state of ABI. That was also our little short segment review on Escape from Tarkov based on our experiences as a returning player and then a semi new player like myself. Returning player as in tact. Um, so, and the next game we're going to play on our extraction, it won't be this Monday because we're skipping a week because of, life, um, is going to be Hunt Showdown. Now, I think this is going to be a very interesting experience because I think it's very different from any of the games we played. Maybe more comparable with Dark and Darker, but not really in terms of
mhm,
like combat. But I'm also talking from perspective of someone who's never played the game intact. If I'm not mistaken, you've never played the game either, have you?
I have not. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be very interesting to see two guys that have played the normal extract shooters going to hunt. Like it looks like it could be a fun game. I don't really know. I haven't done a lot of research on it either. I'd rather I just want to jump in for that raw experience and kind of see how it is.
yeah, and I'm going to do the same. So that perspective you're going to get from two brand new players, but we do have different backgrounds in games we've played and games that we like. So I think there's still some beneficial words or beneficial perspectives from having both of us. So it's definitely a different aesthetic than the games we've played in the past. And it's like 1896 or something right now. It's definitely like it's like 1800. So they use like old guns, and there's like a swamp horror vibe to it. So it'll be definitely interesting to see. I think the game is kind of in a recession right now based off the viewer count. But I think they still have a pretty strong cult community. I have a friend of mine who is really big in the game, and we used to be streaming the game, so he said it has a very strong cult following. So we'll definitely get to experience it and tell you how we feel about it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Also, I know we usually do the map breakdown after this. We're going to be pushing that back to the following week as well for TV station, just an FYI.
Yeah, Armory should be available out now once this video releases. I've been trying to make sure I do really well on that video because it was a very in-depth video and the map that I feel like people play the most. So check that out if you haven't already. Keep a lookout for TV station map update, and not this upcoming Friday, but the next Friday we'll have another TNT extracted episode out for you all. But that kind of covers all the content we had set for today. As always, Tact, do you have any last statements before we do some closing statements here?
No, I hope everyone's. I know there's a lot of new games out right now, even outside of the extraction shooter, and I hope everyone's enjoying them. I know I've been, still enjoying. Don't get me wrong, guys. ABI is still fun for me. It's just, it's just end of season, but I really hope to see everybody on the next season as well and the future updates, on the 28th. So I always tune in for the updates. I want to see what new skins. I'll probably, cover those as well. We'll touch on them in the next podcast as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Still want to build the community. We'll definitely. I'm not quitting ABI. I know I was talking a lot of praise to Tarkov. I'm not the biggest Tarkov fan still. It's just something different right now while we're in the war. But as always, I am the Lucky Tuna. Follow me on all the socials. I'm there. Yeah, you do your little plug.
That's right. That's right. So you can follow me. I'm on just been doing Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You could excuse me, you can type in Tactical Donuts or Tac Donuts, how you find me. I'm also thinking about, making a Twitter. Maybe I might do some updates on there as well for you guys.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. If you've made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. Like the video, subscribe to the account, and if you have anything you want to see or any comments on anything we said, post them down below, and we are very much active, and we will get back to your comments as quick as we can. Probably pretty quick. I pretty much am chronically online, and we definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Until next time.